So welcome everybody. We're glad to have you for saying no. And everybody ready to look at what we're going to say no to? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
This is an interesting topic. We had a lot of fun getting ready for it. So we're going to start with getting ourselves centered and focused, and then we're going to dive in.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's just start by taking our usual deep breath, slowly in, slowly out. Oh, yes. And as we look at these times that we're living in, we know that things may be a little uncertain, but we all can handle it. We've never experienced anything like this before, but we all can handle it. These are truly uncertain times, and we all can handle it. We have no idea what exactly will happen in the future, and we can all handle that too. And so we affirm that the greater good of all will prevail and is prevailing. And so we certainly can handle that too. And so it is.
And so it
And
is.
so it shall be.
Okay, so I muted everybody. So when you're ready to talk, just unmute yourself. If you have any problem, wave at me and I will unmute you for you. So this actually, if you read your Monday Musings, and I don't know if everybody has an opportunity to read that or not, but in our Monday Musings, we shared an article that was 40 or 31 things to say no to for a happier life. And we found it really interesting because this guy just went through all this stuff, and for everything he put how to fix it, a neat little quote, some resources. It was just really interesting. And so as we were looking at it, we thought, wouldn't it be cool to take that even deeper and look at it not just superficially for a happier life, but for spiritual enrichment? How do some of these things really impact for us on our spiritual enrichment? So we decided to pull, and I had said in the description we were going to pull 3. Well, we pulled 5. We couldn't narrow it down to 3. And probably there'll be more come up because I'm sure you're going to have some other things too. So let me quickly share the 5 we chose, and then we're going to do a quick poll to find out where everybody is on these 5 things. So paying attention to the 5 things. They are, let me see so I can read it. And one of the things I've noticed that we need to stop doing when we're presenting in Zoom is talking to ourselves and thinking nobody's hearing us. Have you noticed how we all do that? It's like when we're looking for things. I noticed other people doing it, and then all of a sudden I thought, ooh, I do that too. Okay, so here are the 5 things. Negative self-talk. And give a thumbs up if you can relate to it immediately and know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Negative self-talk. Okay, reading things you don't enjoy. Can you relate to that? We found that one particularly interesting because my first thought was, what? And then I thought, a lot of people do. They think they have to read something, or somebody brings a book up and they think, oh man, I better be reading that because everybody's talking about it. And then they start to read it and they hate it, but they keep reading it and plow through. So a lot of there's some spiritual implications to that one. So we decided to pull that out because we thought it was fun.
Could I make one comment?
Yes.
I used to do that all the time when I was in school.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah. Partly because it's required, right? And you know what's funny? We're going to talk about these two after we did this poll, but I was based on what you just said. When we were in our getting ordained, we had a lot of reading we had to do, and some of it was horrible, some of it was great, but it just depended. But for some reason, after that experience, after we graduated, for the longest time, I could not pick up a book. And I am an avid reader. I mean, I usually have 3-4 books going at once. I went over a year. I just had to force myself to read something. And I think it was just that, exactly what you were saying, Violet. I think it was that we were forced to read things we didn't want to, and I just got it up to there. So that was we had a lot of interesting discussion around that one. The third one is bad or ineffective routines. Does that make sense? Where you have routines where you do things, but they're not effective. Spending time with toxic people or wrong people. Hanging out with the wrong people. Yes, thumbs up. You're going to see this in a minute. And comparing apples to oranges. Does that one make sense? Okay, so one of the biggest examples is like comparing yourself to other people and thinking that it makes a difference, thinking that that it's matching, when many times it's comparing apples to oranges. It could also be like comparing meditation to affirmations. Or, so it's taking two things that aren't related and trying to force fit them and then making comparisons and wasting your time trying to prove something or deal with something that doesn't make sense. So do those 5 things all make sense? Okay, so we're going to take a poll. And in the poll, you've got those choices, plus I also put other. Now you can't actually type in other, you could just click other if there's something that's way out above those for you. And then you can share what it is when we come back together. But those are listed. The question is, which of these is the thing you most need to work on in terms of saying no to? So I'm launching the poll and it should be showing up on your screen right now. Yes? Everybody see it? Yay. So take a minute and decide which one is yours, which one fits for you. And you can only check one, and we'll get the results and see what comes up. I'm going to end the poll shortly. So get those answers in. Has everybody responded? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got a few people haven't responded yet. Let's get them in. If you don't know, just click other. We won't make you talk. Okay, we're in 5. We're going to stop the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Poll is ended. Okay, so what do you think? Let's take a little, let's play with this. Everybody know where your little chat box is at the bottom? Click on the chat box and type into everyone what you think the majority is going to say. Not what you said, but what do you think is going to be the one the majority said? And it was negative self-talk. You don't have to type it all out, but negative self-talk, reading, things you don't enjoy, routine that's bad or ineffective, wrong people or toxic people, and comparing apples and oranges. What do you think? Let's see. We've got negative self-talk is coming out big as the one people think the most of us have. And maybe spending time with toxic people. But look at that. Wow. If y'all are looking at the chat box right now, you'll see a lot of people guessed that number 1 would be negative self-talk. And I'm going to share the results. There they are. So 33% said negative self-talk. So you guys were correct in guessing that would be the majority. Yay, celebrate. And then we had 1 who said reading things they don't enjoy, 1 for bad and ineffective routines. Nobody picked spending time with toxic people.
Good.
You know what? I am so proud that we've all gotten to where we don't do that anymore. Is that what it is, do you think? Did you used to do it and don't do it anymore? Yeah, Richard?
Well, I feel that if we are spending time with toxic people, it could be a limited amount of time. You realize who they are, and we've all come to this growth place, and we all wouldn't be sitting here with our faces on a screen virtually, but we would understand that, okay, this person is not good for me, and I have enough issues with my own negative self-talk. I don't need to hear it with other people. So it's easy for me to say, I'm confident enough, hey, had enough. It within myself and see you later type of thing.
Cool. All right. And do you see that as growth for you, that you've learned to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, at work, when I was at work, I had to deal with toxic people. Now, no.
Yeah. Now you have a choice, right?
So I hang out with these enlightened souls.
I love it. Julia Ann, you had a comment too.
I think because of COVID and social distancing and our great reduction in our social activities, that a lot of us, if we've had that in our lives, it's a really good way to get it out.
Yeah.
So maybe we haven't had as much of that the last 4 or 5 months.
Oh, this became a good excuse to get those kind of release those people from your life. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So we get to practice what we're preaching. Anybody else on that one?
Have you made it a practice to defriend folks on your Facebook? Toxic people?
Yeah.
We have certainly.
We have, or at least
Or just
unfollow.
unfollow,
We've
yeah.
unfollowed a lot of people recently just because of the kind of things that are being posted. I just don't want to see it. I usually skim by it anyway, but I've actually, some of them I've just chosen to do that. Yeah. Okay. Comparing apples to oranges. 2 of you put that one. It'll be interesting to talk. And we have 2 others. Does anybody want to share the other that you had? And so we can kind of talk about it too. Anybody? I don't know who said what, so I can't call on you. And I did say I wouldn't make you talk. Yeah. Oh, Rich, are you?
Yeah, I'm a Virgo. Perfection is my thing. I'm always, if I don't have it perfect, I just keep driving myself nuts, trying to get it done, trying to get it right, get the book written, done, things. It's just an ingrained part of who I am. And it's just, it comes from a lot of reasons, but right now it's one of my biggest challenges.
And let me just ask for the thumbs up. How many can relate at least to the perfectionist complex? Yeah,
Oh.
You are.
Hey,
not
Rich, this is Rich. What I want to know is, okay, well, Liz, tell us the truth about that.
She's not talking. No, are you
I'm
going
not talking. I have to live with one of these Richards.
I consider the perfectionism is part of the way I do negative self-talk.
Oh,
Yes, that's
interesting.
true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where it comes from. Yeah.
Okay. So you could kind of fit it in there. Yeah. When I looked at the 31 things when Bill and I were talking about, and we kept saying, well, you could put this one in with that one, and you could narrow this list down a good bit by combining things, but still, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And when you look at spirituality, because that's really what we want to do, is take these even deeper than just our general life. But how is it affecting us if we don't say no to these things? How is it really keeping us from being fully enriched and enlightened as much as we can be? And that perfectionism thing, we see it coming out a lot in things like meditation. People think my meditation, I'm not doing it right. It has to be perfect. I'm not experiencing what I'm supposed to be experiencing. I must be doing it wrong. And in fact, there's no right, perfect way to do meditation. It's the act of the process that makes it so powerful. But people get tied up in that, I've got to make it perfect, and that can cause some problems. Other comments related to just the overall poll statistics before we jump in? Okay.
Wait a minute. Well, I will say one thing
Uh-huh.
on the spending time with toxic or wrong people,
Uh-huh.
the news and politics.
Oh, I just got goosebumps when you said that, because I really hadn't thought about it that way. But you know what? That sure could be. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to be hanging out with people face to face, does it? It could be the information we listen to. Ooh.
I'd like to go along with what Violet said. Is one of the things I'm trying to do is limit my social media and that bad or toxic element that comes out, including all the negativity in social media. So when you said Facebook, I don't have a Facebook. So there's sometimes I'll look at my wife's, but otherwise I don't. I try to limit it, and that includes looking at emails. And well, I was just reading a book. There's mindless type of social media, and there's mindful where I'm learning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll look at your Monday musings. That's learning something. So it's there. There we go.
You get a star.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we miss you on Facebook though, on our in our Facebook group. It'd be worth joining Facebook just to come to our group.
Okay.
Anyway, just throwing that out. And several, because some of you aren't on Facebook, and we do miss you there.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I know. And we that's how we connect with lots of people that way. That's one reason I like Facebook, but I do limit who I read on Facebook. Yeah. Okay, so let's start talking about these, and I'm going to stop sharing that so you're not seeing it sitting in front of you. Since let's see, negative self-talk came up first. Why don't we just talk about that? And I want to kind of get us set up for what we're going to talk about. So I need everybody to unmute yourself. I know you don't usually hear me say that, right? Unmute. And I'm going to spell a word, and I want everybody to say it out loud, not as loud as you can, because that would probably shake the airwaves, but nice and authoritatively tell me what word I'm spelling. Okay, everybody ready?
Ready.
N-O.
No.
no.
Oh,
One more time. N-O.
No.
oh,
Right, good. Okay, so everybody knows how to say that word, correct? Just demonstrated that, because I hear people say, I just can't say no. And I'm thinking, I think you can. Now, here's
and
another
it's
word.
a complete sentence.
Yes, I love that. No is a
Yes.
complete sentence. That's a great quote. That is a keeper. Okay, so here's another word I'm going to spell. It's 4 letters, so if you have a problem in your head putting them together, you may want to write them down as I spelled it, okay? K-N-O-W.
No.
Oh, wait a minute. One more time. K-N-O-W.
No.
Listen to the N-O.
No.
No.
K-N-O-W.
No.
Okay, so this
No,
is the secret. This is the secret. If you K-N-O-W know when and why you need to say N-O no, it's a whole lot easier to say it. So, and if you have trouble with N-O, just say K-N-O-W and they won't know the difference, right? So our secret is for each one of these that's important to us, we want to K-N-O-W know why it's important to start saying no to that, to take a stand and to make a difference. So if we start with negative self-talk, what would be the reason we would want to say no to negative self-talk? From a spiritual, let's dig deep. What impact does that have on our spirituality?
Not our
It's
truth.
Rich first, Rich.
It's not our truth.
Ah, okay. It's not our truth. Who else? I didn't hear who. Yeah.
it's a form of verbal abuse.
Most definitely.
Deep. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Verbal abuse to yourself, right?
Yes, that was how I stumbled on the problem in my own spiritual practice. One day I just had the awareness that I was saying things to myself that if I said to someone else, I would really be unhappy with myself. Or if someone said to me, I would be quite angry. And here I am, this stuff is going on in my head.
Saying it to yourself, right? We actually believe that it could be sacrilege
Mhm.
Yeah.
or blasphemy. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Because if we are divine beings and then we have negative self-talk, what does that mean? Richard?
It's easier, negative self-talk. It's easier for me to love other people than to love myself. So,
Yeah. And why is that, do we think? Because I don't
well,
think we're alone on that.
I think what I've learned, I came from a very strict, somewhat quite abusive family, more verbally abusive than physical, but I refused to have my son grow up or my sons grow up like that. And so there has been a saying where it takes sometimes up to 10 generations to change something unless you make the effort to do that. Well, I didn't want to do 10 generations. I made that effort within myself to change it. and it takes a lot to change something like that.
Yeah, it does.
So I didn't want to do it to my kids and have them go through the same CRAP, so to speak. So
Good for you. That
Yeah.
because that does take a real commitment.
it's still constantly going, but it's, a lot better.
Yeah. And so if you can stop it with your children, then you can certainly stop it with yourself.
Well, and I can see the difference in them.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Exactly.
just, you're giving them pats on the back,
Mhm.
love you, I'm proud of you. Things that are simple that you crave as a new spiritual being in this human existence.
Yes, I think we all crave that.
Sure.
All of us. Yeah. And why won't we give it to ourselves? What is it about us that won't let us give it to ourselves?
What are some non-vocal ways of saying no to ourselves?
To our negative self-talk?
It's negative self-talk, but it's not vocal. For example, if for some reason you don't do things you enjoy, you're really saying no to yourself in that way by not doing things you enjoy. That's a form of negative self-talk.
Well, you're talking then about not listening to the still small voice inside. You're getting guidance and you're not following it.
Following it. Good point.
Yeah. And that can be a form of negative self-talk.
Yep.
Because it's like the other part of you
huge.
is blocking it, and saying you don't deserve that, or you're not good enough for that.
You're unworthy. Yeah.
Right.
That's a significant way to self-sabotage.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And self-sabotage, that's a great word, because that's what we do lots of times. And it does affect our spiritual growth, because if we can't see ourselves as the truth of who we are, unless we are willing to acknowledge that. And if we keep negating it with everything we say, then we get ourselves kind of stalled out.
Yeah. So we
And
can,
no one else will see it either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're putting that bushel basket over our light, aren't we? We're not letting that light shine.
so
A
we
lot
can
of mine comes from having been bullied significantly
Ah.
most of my years, my early years. And now I feel like I've got to be perfect, or I've got to be, I'm so self-defensive a lot,
Mhm.
and it's just automatic, and it comes out in judgment, or it sometimes comes out in lashing out at someone else in anger in response to it, because I felt that energy come so much. It's being so ingrained in me that it's difficult not to react to it.
Yeah.
It just-
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it's habitual, it's
Yeah.
like everybody, it's been said enough that, gosh,
Yeah.
it must be true. Yeah.
So we can turn self-sabotage into self-sabbath,
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
and that works every time.
So how are we going to do that? What are some things you can do to help us deal with that? Because that was the number one that came up. So we want to be sure we have some how-tos here.
I don't know where this fits into the category, but my father, well, I was in negative, I learned a lot of negative self-talk growing up, put it that way. And it can be really abusive, like, I can't lose weight anyway, so I might as well eat everything in sight, stuff like that, and participate in my addictions and whatever. But one thing my dad used to do was, if you do something and you're really proud of it, he would say, now what you should have done was, and so my sister, since he's died, my sisters and I have made a joke out of it. So we do something and we just have to wait for it. And somebody's going to say, what you should have done was, and we all laugh now, because it's just ridiculous. So that's one way we've kind of conquered it, I think, is to make a joke out of it.
I love that. It's transformed and taken the sting out of it.
Here's
Humor
a good
is always good. I love humor.
Yeah.
a good how-to that I like. Julianne had mentioned about hearing the still small voice. When I do that negative talk, which comes often, then I slow myself down and I just silence myself and just be still. In that stillness, you can kind of you can steer through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can catch myself a lot quicker just by just slowing down, breathing, going with the flow.
Good. That's great, because that will help you reverse it. And I don't know, I think we've shared in one of these sessions somewhere along the way our little game of gotcha. Y'all remember our little game of gotcha? That's where you pick something. So you might pick negative self-talk. And the whole point of the game is to catch yourself doing it. So as soon as you recognize you're in it, just say gotcha to yourself. Okay, you can say it out loud. And what that means is you caught yourself, and then you do something like what Richard just shared. You have some way of overcoming it. You either, or even what Marian said, you use a joke. Like you might play, I gotcha. And what I should have said was.
I like that better than the whole conversation I give myself. If I've done something that common sense should have told me wasn't going to work out, okay. And I can find myself saying, you are so stupid. No, you're not. What you did was stupid, but you're not stupid. I think I'm going to have to start going. And then I get into this conversation about, well, it wasn't stupid. I tried. That's a good thing. If I didn't try it, I would have never known. And I have this big, huge conversation with myself a lot.
Yeah. So now you could just say, gotcha.
Gotcha. I like that.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with that phrase of stop shooting on yourself, which I think probably everybody's used at one time or another. I've got to stop shooting on myself. Well, we just say the gotcha, and then what can I say instead? What could I do instead? Because if we have that conversation too long, that becomes another form of self-sabotage, where we start beating ourselves up for not recognizing we shouldn't have done that. So you want to be careful that we don't, turn the cure into the worse than the problem in a way. Yeah. Okay, cool. So the gotcha, the rubber band on your wrist, how many have ever done that? Where you snap it when you catch yourself? Yeah, and that, I don't like that because it's painful, but it's a really good technique. A lot of people.
It's very painful.
I do not like to hurt myself, and I have a very low pain tolerance, so it doesn't work for me, but a lot of people do that. Sally?
I like humor. I mean, I usually wind up laughing at myself, and then I say, oh my goodness, Sally, you're so amusing and cute. I really
Awesome.
Basically, you do that long enough and you believe it. You just think, oh my gosh, I'm just full of great things.
I love it. I love that. Just to say no, and what you're doing is ending up saying positive self-talk, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Process.
Especially if you laugh.
I love it.
Sally, it's like you're your own little stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I
My own
remember
autograph.
I've done the gotcha stuff, but it's more like I just mentally stop myself if it's going into negative vibes, and often those are directed towards me. But it often, and I can't remember the guy's name. I had a hypnotic therapist who gave me I think his name was Emmett.
Emmett Fox.
Positive for a week, trying to stay positive without a negative thought for 7 days.
Oh yeah.
And I could basically barely get through a couple of hours, and then I'd be slapping myself because of course
Did you have to start over?
Because I was failing. And then I finally just decided that I was going to remember that there are people who could do that, and I'm not going to be one of them. But I always kind of think right away, I'll go, Emmett Stone, get over it.
Another way of looking at some of your negative self-talk, we've been talking about the small s self. How about the capital S self, which is your higher nature? So for
My
us,
higher nature doesn't say anything negative to me.
no,
Correct.
I'm talking about you saying negative things about you, and you saying negative things about your capital S self. It's the same self. That's why Sarah and I are talking about when you say things about yourself, that aren't true about you and that are negative, it's blasphemy, because the reason you're blaspheming is that you're also including your capital S self in that equation. When you think about it, so it's a double negative. It's a double whammy when you think about it.
Yeah, I get stuck on my I don't, doesn't matter. But the lighthouse story, where the light is always there, but if the windows are dirty, you can't see it. And I think that that's what you do is every time you say something negative to yourself, you have thrown a ball of mud at that window. And if you do it often enough, I don't know why I just thought of that. But you're right. We do say it to our higher self.
I guess you could, if you catch yourself talking negative to yourself, you could actually picture cleaning a window.
Do what? Cleaning my window. Yes, I could do that. Yes.
As a reminder, I love it.
So doesn't your higher self know that's not true, and so the higher self doesn't hear it?
Just don't pay any attention to this right now, right? Just say to your higher self, I'm not talking to you.
When I first started working on when I first became aware of my negative self-talk, I soon realized that I actually had 6 different voices in my head that could shame me 6 different ways with one action. And so, that was a pretty serious problem. And so I did an experiment with myself that used the capital S talk. And somehow I ended up, of course, these things don't happen by accident, but somebody gave me the sheet from Louise Hay on ways to love yourself. And one of the things on there was an affirmation that you do in the mirror. You look at yourself in the eye in the mirror and you say it out loud. And I said it out loud 3 times every morning for probably a couple of years. And it's Julia Ann, I love and accept you exactly as you are. And it took a while. There's nothing instantaneous about it. What I found from my experiment is that the more I did of that, the more the negative self-talk went away.
Cool. Wow. And that's a very powerful affirmation to say to yourself. Yeah.
And it's a very powerful technique when you think about it. When you look in the mirror, you can watch your own nonverbals.
Yeah.
Yes.
And until your nonverbals don't contradict what you're affirming, you need to continue affirming in front of a mirror.
Yeah, if your eyes are rolling.
I didn't have problems.
I've got a question for Bill. What happens if you're a masochist?
Well,
how does a masochist deal with all of this?
Well, that's a choice, of course, a choice you're making to be a masochist. And that's not true about you.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, what is it about that I feel I've got to say that or feel that way about myself? And investigate it a little bit. Do your own self analysis there a little bit, for sure.
Yeah, that would be a conflict between your higher self and your little s self.
Most
for
definitely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you've got to be careful about how you say that. Little ass, little ass.
You make an ass of yourself, yes.
Okay, so what do you think? Have we done negative self-talk well? People feel like they've got some stuff to do with that?
One thing I wanted to mention was that I did a lot of inner child stuff a long time ago, and one of the things is when you said that about the big self and the little self, you can use that as parent to child, and when you're real negative, you can use the parent to say that's not true about you, and talk to the small s, and comfort and just like a parent would.
Sure. Yeah. I like that. You can also, and this is kind of, you reminded me of it when you said that, is you can talk to your younger self. Like your older self can invite your younger self to visit and just share. and thank that younger self. And maybe some of the things that you're doing, your negative self-talk, came from when you were a child, and it served you at that time. There was a purpose for what you believe or why it happened, and you can kind of give some comfort or some encouragement to your younger self, because we believe with quantum physics, there is no, time is relative. We've created that relativeness, and we can really help our younger self, and our younger self can probably help us as well.
And if you really want to get ethereal about it, contact the other concurrent versions of you in other dimensions.
Whoa.
That are here right now in real time as we speak, and get those other versions of you to help you with. Now, I think that's where our dreams come from, are the other versions of us trying to help us.
Oh,
Some people think it's angels, and that's fine. I think it's a little bit closer to us than angels. It could be both, of course, but there are other versions of you, of all of us, operating simultaneously with our concurrent human version too.
And maybe that's
Just a
who
thought.
angels are.
Yep.
Maybe that's who angels are. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, just a thought.
I just wanted to follow up Julianne's comment that today, this was on my tapping Facebook page today, is that in Louise Hay's calendar, Wednesday, August 5th is, I am good enough just as I am. I approve of myself at all times. Today.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy.
Yep, good affirmation.
Yeah. Okay, so we are all going to work on negative self-talk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love myself exactly as I am, and I am always striving to be even better. I want to always grow. I always want to get that balance between I love who I am, I love my higher self, I love who I am, and wow, there's so much more I can still learn. There's so much more to do. There's so much to grow. And I'm always want to feed myself. I want to feed my body, my mind, and my soul to continue that growth. So I guess I always build that little balance.
Yeah. And of course, another way to stay positive, a reason for staying positive, is that Myrtle Fillmore told us the secret behind that, didn't she? About affirming, never affirm.
Oh, that's right. She said, never affirm, never make an affirmation or assertion about anything, no matter how true it may appear, that you do not want to see manifest in your life.
Right.
Which even stuff like I'm having a bad hair day, you do not want to affirm that, because we don't want more of those, right?
Well, I have those all the time.
Yeah, some of y'all don't have to worry about that. Some of us have a little more to deal with than others. Are you noticing even on TV though, all the newscasters, everybody, all their hair is starting to get a little raggy looking, even with them. So I don't feel so bad. Okay, why don't we just touch on a couple of others before, because we have a spiritual practice to share as well. We've kind of already shared it, but let's talk about reading things you don't enjoy, just for kicks here for a minute, because that was the one that first I thought, what? And one person actually checked that. So let's just kind of talk about how this could affect us from a spiritual perspective. What are our thoughts on that?
That's doing something that somebody else tells you should be doing, and not what you really want to be doing.
Right.
It's a violation of your own free will.
Okay. Yeah. Sally, what were you going to say to add to that?
Oh, no, I agree with that. We book club, and we had to read the books, and some of them I just really despised. And we get in and we talk, and I'd come in with a bad taste in my mouth, which isn't the right thing to do. And it really wasn't what I wanted to do, but yet it lowered my vibration, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I just, if they're reading one, I just bow out of that session. That's it.
There you go. That's the smart thing to do.
Yep.
Yeah. That's one reason I haven't been in a reading club a book club for I don't know how long, because so often I love to read, but I go back to Violet's comment. I want to read what I want to read. And yeah. So spiritually, how often do we hear, just like today, if we said, what's your favorite books? what are your favorite books? And everybody would start recommending different books. And then does anybody ever feel compelled, like if the same book comes up among 3 or 4 people, it's like, oh man, I guess I got to read that. No, you all don't. Okay, that's good if you don't. Cool. Okay.
If
I
it comes
have
from
caught
some- if it comes from somebody I really respect and really think, I mean, I've got a friend who's taking a different position on this whole thing of the source of COVID and the whole thing. I force myself to look at it because maybe there's something in there I'll learn. And by doing so, I have learned a couple of things about it. So yeah, if it's a person who to me has high integrity, I'll at least honor them by having the at least looking at it and listening to what they're coming from, because they may in fact have a gift. They may be talking about a blind spot that I may have.
Yeah, it could tie in with our confirmation bias. It could kind of get in the way there. Violet?
I've also caught the other person's energy and gotten enthusiastic about the book.
Oh yeah.
And then I got it. And then when I got it,
You got
I
it.
didn't really like it because it was their enthusiasm that got me in, enthused about it.
Yeah.
I got a phrase to throw at you. The universe is wired in our behalf. I'm sure you've heard people say that a gazillion times. But what's interesting about that is, in my opinion, you need to ask what that means. What do you mean, or what do you think they meant when they said the universe is wired in your behalf? Because my first impression would be, how much of the universe is wired in your behalf? To what degree, to what extent? And the reason I ask that is because 98% of the universe is not wired in our behalf. It's uninhabitable. It's unlivable. There are zones called Goldilocks zones. Look it up. Those zones, which amount to about a 1%, 2% of any universe, are wired in our behalf. But outside of that, the universe as a whole is not wired in your behalf at all. Don't believe that for a minute.
You're talking physically, Bill. I'm talking metaphysically. It's different.
No, I'm talking about physically.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, these zones exist. They're planets, they're galaxies, which are inhabitable like ours, the Milky Way galaxy. And even within our galaxy, the only inhabitable zone that we know about in our galaxy is planet Earth in terms of life and sustaining human life and intelligent life. So, and there are not that many quote unquote planets out there, and they're called Goldilocks zones. Look it up.
Well, 96% of the universe is dark matter.
That's what they say, yes.
Dark matter. So what's going on in the darkness?
Yeah.
Are we dark? We have 96% of us are darkness.
Well, actually,
playing with words.
A lot of us is air, space.
True.
It's not even carbon, and we've got more water in us than carbon.
Correct.
And
And water
So
has
if this,
hydrogen.
if this is something that
some of
is,
us higher temperature than others.
you can read about it. And I'll tell you, one of the things, kind of tying back to reading things you don't enjoy, like Bill loves reading all this stuff, and he loves reading the science. Look at Richard's there, like nodding too. I know that they've talked a lot about the science stuff. And what I like
You're the man, Bill. You're the man.
Thanks. I'm just a fan.
But I want to know about it, and I want to be informed, and little pieces of it really excite me, but I cannot wade through most of those books. I'm just going to be real honest. I just, it's not that I don't understand it. It's just that I don't enjoy it. And so Bill reads them, and he is just does all kinds of underlining. That's why he doesn't like Kindles. He does underlining and writes little notes and all of that. What I get to do is I get to benefit from that, because I just take the book and I can go through and just kind of scan the things that he's underlined, and I can find the things that just jump out at me that say, wow, that's something I'm more interested in. So I've learned, because I used to feel guilty that I wasn't reading that too. But then I thought, well, we have different interests, and we can bring those interests together. And that's what's so cool. This guy had a rule. I don't think I copied that down. This guy had a rule that if you're 50 years or older, I don't know, does that fit everybody? Anyway, if you're 50 years or older, subtract your age from 100 And that's how many pages you can read in a book and then know if it's something that's going to interest you or not. And when you get to that number of pages, if you're not interested, if it hasn't captured you, you have permission to stop reading. Because there's something in us that says, I started this book, I've got to finish it. And you don't have to finish it if you don't want to.
I usually read an abstract. If I don't like the abstract, I don't go any further.
There you go.
That works. Yep.
See, yeah, a lot of my books, the kind of books I like, don't have.
Right out.
And that's
Feels
like
like
with news stories. Journalists are taught in college to put everything that you need to know about the subject
First
in the first
paragraph.
5 paragraphs.
Yeah.
So you really don't need to read the whole thing,
Right.
you know, and so it takes, you can save a lot of time reading the news and keeping the negative stuff, you know, to a minimum if you just read the first 5 paragraphs.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think that this whole thing about reading things you don't enjoy, like it just applies to everything, like on Facebook, the stuff there, spiritual books that are traditional and fundamental. If that excites you, that's great. If it doesn't, if it makes you angry, why are you reading it? Just move on and pick something that's going to feed your soul, feed your spirit. You know? There's a James Joyce quote. I have the article up on my other screen. That's what I'm looking at. And I did put the link in the Monday Musings for everybody to get this article because it's really interesting. But he had a quote by James Joyce: "Life is too short to read a bad book." I think that's so powerful. How about let's quickly talk. We're going to run out of time. Let's talk about bad routines, because I just think this one really relates to us from a spiritual perspective. How does that speak to people? Bad routines or ineffective routines?
Well, you send them to the room. You send them time out.
What are examples of a bad routine?
Well, I have a bad routine. It's sitting down and playing computer games, and then I can't get away from the computer. I got hooked. So then I really waste a lot of time. So it's a time waster. It's robbing my energy from what I really want to be doing.
Okay, cool. And you know, it's not that playing a game on the computer is bad, but it's of the effect it has if it controls you.
Yeah.
And those games are designed to control you. I'm a Candy Crusher, and I got to tell you, yeah, I don't even open it until night because it's like if I open it during the day. Yeah, I hear you. So knowing that about yourself, how does that help you then change it?
When I'm beginning to feel that tug, like, oh, I've got to go over and just play one game. It's like, I know if I give in, then I've lost the war. But if I can keep saying no, I have to go and do something. You know, I have this on my list, my to-do list. So I go back to my to-do list and say, okay, I pick out something here that doesn't have to be the hardest thing. Just find something that I can say, okay, I've accomplished it, and I can check it off.
And you could use the game as a reward. Like when I finish the to-do list, I get to play the game. You know, you can kind of use it to help yourself get productive about what you want to do.
Today,
I set a timer.
Today we said a major no to something that sounded like it was going to be a salvation for some of the debt we have. And this guy was good. He understood it. But when we worked through the numbers on it, we really worked it through. It wasn't going to work on our behalf. It sounded so good. But then we finally decided no and felt good about it.
Cool. And it does, you know, if you learn to listen to your body, you know, KNOW, when a no is right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Correct? You just feel it. Like after you say it, it's like your whole body says, thank you. I'm so glad you got that. Yeah. And Violet? Yeah.
A routine that I have had that I know what does work with me, and that has to do with the habit of too much snack after dinner. Too big a snack. You know, like you can get the whole ice cream thing, but I think you've all been
Just have
there.
another
Oh my
one, that's
goodness, it
all. Let's
sounds
just
like
have
you are
another
not
one.
alone.
Wait a minute, those ice cream containers aren't single serve. They were.
Renee, we just ruined your day.
Well, you know, a Ben and Jerry's
I put
carton
ahead-
is 4
I go ahead.
servings.
Yeah, there
There's
you go.
no
Yeah.
way. It's
That
one.
was
That's
the
one.
biggest shock to me when I found that out. That Ben and Jerry's, that was 4 servings. You gotta be kidding.
That's
Well, now-
ridiculous.
I can put, like, if I'm going to do potato chips or whatever, I can do it in a little plastic bag. Or if I'm going to do ice cream, I can do a little thing. And then I have to train myself that doesn't mean I get to go back
That's right. When it's done,
and fill it up again,
Well, you
Well,
know,
or
wow, good
whatever
point.
it is.
are different. It's a single serve, okay, but for NFL football players, a single serve is a gallon of ice cream.
We
Violet, just buy Klondikes. That's what we buy, these little
There you
Klondikes.
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just one, that's it.
Yeah.
You've done it, you're satisfied.
is- A serving is 1 Klondike, not the whole package.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work because I go back and say, well, if I just have another half, that's okay.
Yeah.
Later, I think, well, there's this lonely half in there. I got to have that other. Then I've had 2. Yeah.
So I can go back and say
Yeah,
it
you couldn't let
still
the other
isn't the
half go to
whole
waste.
thing.
Yeah.
It's just
Did go to your
a
It
little
does
bit
go
more
to
than
your
I
waist.
started out with.
Remember back, I don't know if anybody used to eat Pop-Tarts, but I used to love Pop-Tarts. I haven't had one for years, but I used to love them. And it was sort of like you opened a package and you eat one and it's like, oh, it's going to get stale if I don't eat the other one because there's no way to, really turn that over. And then it's like, well, now they're kind of lonely in there. And you can eat your way through a whole box of Pop-Tarts.
Remember, you can,
Real quick.
And I can
remember, you
also
can only eat one now.
Yeah.
I can also say, oh my gosh, I had a salad for dinner. Now it's just going to be fine to have this nice snack.
Yeah, I can have a couple of ice creams because we had a really light dinner. Yeah. We can.
Or a really healthy dinner.
Yeah, we just blew it, didn't we?
I think Renee gonna say something.
So, Renee, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just thinking that's the only reason I eat salad.
The excuse.
Right.
So, you know what I love?
Bribe.
I love this. Really hit a chord. Connected with everybody, and if you take it to a deeper level, we do the same thing spiritually. When you think about it, it's like we rationalize ourselves when we do things that are not helping us spiritually, but we'll find ways to rationalize it, just like we do with our snacks. And maybe we always talk about healthy snacks, but I think that's an oxymoron personally. But learning how do we feed ourselves, and feeding ourselves spiritually, physically, mentally, that all of those are being fed would be a real powerful question to ask ourselves. Okay.
Well, something for me, if I ask myself a question, all right, Violet, do you want a carrot or do you want ice cream? What do you think I'm going to say?
That's a no-brainer.
Ice cream, of course.
I would say
Because I
would
had a
say.
salad for dinner.
That's an obvious answer.
Yeah, for sure. And the other question is, when we can learn to have the control, then there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. That's what I love about Weight Watchers, because Weight Watchers, you can eat anything. It's the amount and the serving size that you focus on. So what we need to learn is, how do I have that snack and not keep adding to it and having it be more and more and more and more.
Yeah, I briefly did Weight Watchers, and the woman said you need to buy these little kind of like candy bar snacks and keep them in your car, and that way when you want to eat something that's not on the program, then you eat one of those. So I drove around and ate the whole box. I mean, just get it over with.
I don't think that was exactly what she had in mind.
Well, just be
Several
aware
years
that,
ago, we went
portion
through the-
size,
Several years ago, we went through the
portion size
Medifast.
is one spoon or one fork at a time,
One at a time.
one at a time.
Yeah.
We went through the Medifast program about, 8 years ago now?
Yeah.
8 or 9 years ago. I dropped from 208 to 182, and I'm staying there because it changes the way you look at it. You have 6 small meals a day or one large
Oh,
one,
yeah.
5 snacks. It changes your habits. It changes your thinking. And remember that your blood sugar goes up and down. So about every 3 hours, you need to boost your blood pressure, blood sugar just a little bit with a healthy snack or healthy something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
That helped us, and we've been able to
And
stay
yeah,
off.
creating.
Sugar-free ice cream healthy?
Okay, so
Klondike.
folks, believe it or not, we are just about at the end of our time together. It's a good way to end. And you know, the laughter about it and recognizing, I think recognizing number one, we're not alone, that we all have the same kind of, we're dealing with our issues, and also recognizing that what works for one person doesn't work for another. And I think eating and snacking is probably one of the best examples you can use, because there must be 100 weight loss programs out there, and or weight gain. We have a friend who's anorexic, and she just gets so irritated because the groups for people who are dealing with anorexia, they have merged with groups of people who are dealing with losing weight, which is so stupid. I don't understand that. And it's almost like, you know, it just becomes just a total frustration where each of them thinks the other has no problem, you know, like, and instead of recognizing what's going to work for one person is not going to work for another, and finding the routines that work for you. It's just like with meditation. People talk about first thing when you get up in the morning, which works for us. That works for us. We do our walking meditation first thing. But that's not going to work for everybody. If you're not a morning person and you can barely get up and drink the coffee and get yourself dragged into what you got to get started, that is probably not going to work for you. So finding the prime routine that works for you and gives you what you need, that's what you're going to be looking for from a spiritual standpoint. And say no to forced routines that other people try to put on them.
That's apples and oranges.
Yes, and that's comparing apples
Yes,
and
it
oranges.
is.
And you just summed it up. Perfect.
And that's comparing Steve Jobs to Bill Gates.
There you go. There you go. That's apples and oranges.
Apples and oranges.
And I now have learned to like them both, which is really cool. Both those guys are very smart men.
There's a great, oh, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. There's a great, if you've ever heard of Joseph Goldstein, he's been a meditation teacher around for a long time. And I saw a great little podcast about 15 minutes long on restraint. And he takes that word and uses it quite differently. It's more towards discipline, but he does it very in a mindful sense. So it's on restraint. Very good. It talks about all this stuff. And I just saw it last night. I was really impressed.
Oh,
So,
can you send us the link?
yeah, I guess I can. It was in YouTube. It's Joseph Goldstein on restraint.
We can pass that around.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little quick 14, 15-minute blurb on.
Cool.
Is this is on YouTube, you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can look up Joseph Goldstein. He's in the same category with Jack Cornfield and stuff. So it's on restraint.
Cool. That'd be great. That's about the right length. That's what I like.
Yeah, I know. I can't.
Yeah. Me, I have a short attention span.
I'll send it to you though anyway.
Okay, cool. Here's our spiritual practice, which is just a reminder of where we started this morning, the beginning of the session this morning. No, no. And it's saying no and then saying K-N-O-W. Remember when we did that? And it's a reminder that your spiritual practice is to know when and why you need to say no. So if you're looking at something and you want to change it, start with the when and why. Like, why do I want to say no to this? Why is this unhealthy? How is this affecting me? Because if you can get if you can figure out the why, then the how becomes so much easier. And the motivation is so much stronger. But if you're just forcing yourself, I shouldn't do that, then that's not serving you. But if you can get the why behind it and when it's important to say it, then it's a lot easier to say it. Does that make sense?
Yes,
It does.
I know when you know when and why, it becomes much easier to say no. And when you say no to those things, you can say yes to your spirituality and your growth. And I put the link in. It should work this time. I kind of played with how to get links that are clickable, and hopefully it'll work now. I don't know.
It worked. It worked.
Yay! All right.
And
I
Bill and
just
Sharon,
printed it.
Awesome.
I
Bill and
just
Sharon,
printed
happy 43rd.
Oh, thank
Oh,
you
thank
so
you.
much. Yes, thanks. to
Yeah,
everybody.
happy
It's been a
Oh, that's
43rd.
right.
43 years together. It's awesome. And we're just looking forward to the next, howeing many it is. We're hoping a whole bunch.
You have a lot of patience there, Sharon.
Yeah. Our philosophy is the best is always yet to come.
I think you need to check your spam boxes
Our
Your what?
spam boxes.
because there might be an email there from me.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
Okay. Well, we'll check it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can't get the link to work. It doesn't go anywhere when I click on it.
Really?
Okay.
Okay. I'll send it to you. How about that?
Okay,
I'll just send it to you. Yeah.
thanks.
And I am actually going to create a page on our website with all these links. Like just, every time there's a handout, I'll just put the link there and
That'd be
we'll have
great.
one place they can go and get it. I've
That's
wanted to do
perfect.
that. I just haven't had the time, and I haven't taken the time because we always we're in charge of our time. So I plan to make time in the next week or so to create that page. So we can be looking for that. Okay. And I don't know if you saw the notice yet, but Wednesday, August 26th. It's the last Wednesday of this month at 7 o'clock. Eric Donaldson is going to do another Q&A with us about our wonderful COVID-19 and viruses and vaccines. And he's just going to answer any questions that we have again, because a lot of people asked to bring him back. So he said yes. So go ahead and mark your calendar. I'll be sending out the links for that shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the time again?
7 o'clock at night. And it's
7.
Wednesday, the 26th. Yeah, last Wednesday of the month. So
All right.
look forward to that. It'll be fun. Okay, guys, take a deep breath. And we just K-N-O-W, we now can say N-O, no to all the things that are not serving us at this time. We now claim spiritual enrichment and say yes to our enlightenment as we walk the spiritual path on positive, practical, prosperous feet. And so it is.
And so
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And we do
And
our
a big hug.
Big
Big hug.
Love you guys. Thank you for
Love
taking time to
everybody.
be with us.
Yes.
Yay.
Good seeing you.
All righty. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.